Hi everyone, welcome to Mindwalk with Sina podcast, where we explore science, society, philosophy, and beyond. Hi everyone, today we will talk about something we all have, but nobody of us, like really none of us, is able to really describe it or give a convincing definition of it. I found some inspiring examples about it from ChatGPT that say it's the thing that helps you understand a joke and laugh or guides you through the intricate steps of a dance. It's behind those moments of empathy when you know how somebody else is feeling. And it's what drives you to ponder about the universe when you look up at the stars. It's all these experiences, big and small, simple and complex, that make up this thing we call consciousness. And let me start with a quote by Chalmers that says, "There is nothing that we know more intimately than conscious experience, but there is nothing that is harder to explain." And this is the definition problem we have about consciousness. Nobody is or was ever able to give a definition that everybody else could agree on. And this is also the same problem we have when it comes to artificial intelligence. This is where we start to wonder if AI can ever be like humans with their own self-consciousness, with their own self-awareness, and with their own conscious experiences. Like the question here is, can robots ever truly know that they exist? For example, like me, I know I'm sitting here, I know I'm recording a podcast episode, and I know I'm talking about consciousness. And I also know I'm really tired in this moment. But like I said, the question is, can AI or will AI ever be able to be conscious of such an experience? And so the question we have to answer here is, what does it mean to be conscious? When do we call someone or something as being conscious or maybe not conscious, right? And there are some fundamental questions that need to be answered in order to find an answer for consciousness. We will come back to these fundamental questions, but it's very important to note that there are really a lot of theories about consciousness. A lot of people try to define consciousness, and yet there is only ambiguous definitions of it. Like psychologists, philosophers, thinkers, and scientists, all of them try to give a definition in a particular category, but yet there is no definition that everybody will say, yes, this is a good definition of consciousness. And in today's episode, we will talk about some of the different theories. We will focus on Descartes and some other positions, and also how these positions are categorized in the mind-body problem. And just a quick note, we cannot dive into every theory we will talk about, because if we do so, then we will have an episode that goes on for like hours or maybe days, and I don't want it to be that long, and because like consciousness is very deep and very complex, and this is also the reason why I split our journey about consciousness into 2 episodes. So the next episode would also be about consciousness. And like I said, there are these fundamental questions about consciousness, and if we answer these questions, then it will like help us solve the definition problem of consciousness. There are 3 of them: the what question, the how question, and the why question. The what question involves the description and the modeling of the main features of consciousness. Like it asks us, what are the features or the main features of consciousness, and how can we model them? And the how question is a little bit difficult because it focuses more on the explanation rather than the descriptions of these features. It's about the emergence of consciousness and its place in the nature. So it's about the question, can we explain how consciousness arises or comes from non-conscious elements in the nature? And here we have some different explanatory projects because the how question is not a single question, but rather it divides into various questions, and these questions can be different in their status. Like if you are in a scientific status, then you will give a scientific answer. But if you are in a metaphysical status, then you will give a metaphysical answer, right? And this is where we get the explanatory gap. This is the difficulty of explaining how physical properties give rise to subject things we feel subjectively when we experience them. Like how consciousness can come from unconscious elements in the nature. And I think this is one of the biggest problems, or one of the main reasons why we have this definition problem when it comes to consciousness. And the why question is about the function of consciousness. Like, does consciousness have a function? Does it have a value? Does it have a rule? And if yes, what is it? And now we will come to the different theories, and we will start with Descartes, which is our main focus for today. Descartes was seen as a god in philosophy and also in science, and what made his mark was his writings, like the Discourse on the Method and the Meditations on the First Philosophy. And in these writings, he established the methods of critical thinking and also the skepticism as the foundation of true knowledge, or for acquiring true knowledge. And these works laid the groundwork for his famous concept of dualism and his method of hyperbolic doubt. That's his way of saying we should doubt everything we think we know until we find something we cannot doubt. And for him, this was thinking. And this is where the famous statement comes from. I think, therefore I am. You can doubt everything but thinking, because thinking is the only true knowledge you can have. And Descartes came up with the idea of Cartesian dualism, where he splits existence into res cogitans and res extensa. For those who speak French, I'm sorry if I pronounce them incorrectly. Res cogitans is the thinking stuff. It's our minds. And res extensa is the stuff that physically exists, like a microphone or chair or trees or stones, something that has a physical place in the nature. And for Descartes, our soul, which is the res cogitans, is conscious. It's immaterial. It's the immaterial substance we have in us. And it's totally different from our body, which is the res extensa. It's there, but it's not conscious. It's only physical. And Descartes claims that our soul can live without our body, but our body cannot live without our soul. And Descartes suggested that the pineal gland in our brain is considered as the place where the immaterial soul, which is the res cogitans, and the material body, which is the res extensa, interact. And he assumed that mental processes could cause physical reactions and vice versa. So this is like a model of mutual influence. The body influences the mind, and the mind influences the body. And it's like your mind decides to lift your arm, and then your arm actually lifts. And this shows that your immaterial thoughts cause a material reaction. And Descartes' theories led to the question of within a mechanistic world, how free human actions are actually possible. Like, this arises the fundamental problem or fundamental question: are all physical processes determined, or is there room for free human decisions? But nevertheless, even today, Descartes' view of humans and also animals is very important. Also, his theories about the role of the brain and the connection between matter and spirit are still relevant in today's science or philosophy. And today about AI, I think Descartes will argue that no matter how advanced the robots or computers get, they are still in the realm of matter, not mind. They are just, like automatic machines, and they are impressive and maybe capable of some lifelike behavior, but without the conscious experience, without the inner world that comes from the soul. And so for Descartes, I think until a machine can have its own res cogitans or its own non-physical thinking substance, it's not truly conscious. And for him, I think it would be like just a very sophisticated piece of technology, not a possessor of consciousness. And now we will come to another philosopher, Hegel. He was a German philosopher, and he talked about something deep and special inside us, the spirit. The spirit is what makes us ask questions like what makes us human, or how are we different from animals. And he claimed that the spirit, it's something that does not change, and that consciousness is a part of this invariant substance in us, the part of us that always makes us curious about ourselves, and the part that tries to understand and express who we are. And now coming to the founder of psychoanalysis and a neurologist, that is Sigmund Freud. And I think many of us will say what Sigmund Freud tried to explain is the opposite of consciousness. He tried to explain the unconscious or subconscious. But actually, this is one of the main questions when it comes to consciousness or the opposite of consciousness. Question number one is unconscious and subconscious. Are these two the same? Are these only, synonyms? Or are there any differences between two of them? And question number two, is any one of them, like unconscious or subconscious, the opposite of consciousness or not? And yet we don't have any answers to these questions. But what Sigmund Freud tried to explain is that the unconscious or the subconscious is the thing which is not perceived. It's like in the background of an experience. So it's not conscious of itself, but it forms a part of the individual consciousness. Like it can be shown itself through the effects on conscious and also through emotions. Like it's not conscious, but it influences the conscious experience and also emotions. And I think Sigmund Freud could also be the topic of another separate episode, because he has really a lot to say about psychoanalysis and unconscious or subconscious. So now let's have a look at different categories in which we will find different definitions of consciousness. So let's start with monism. So monism assumes that there is only one kind of substance, and this substance is either physical or mental. So either physical, where you have the materialism, and the physicalism, where it's all about physical properties, or mental, where you have the idealism, where it's all about the inner substance that we carry in us. But monism has also a subcategory, which is called neutral monism. And this neutral monism assumes that consciousness and matter are two aspects of a single underlying reality that is neither purely physical nor purely mental. It's just neutral, right? And in this monism category, we have modern physics like Spinoza and Leibniz, and their concepts offer alternative perspectives to Descartes' dualism. They talk about fundamental building blocks of reality which are not material but purely mental, or they do not have direct interactions with material things. So Spinoza and Leibniz, they are in the monism category, but they are more for the idealistic perspective of monism. So we have the modern physics, Spinoza and Leibniz, and now we have English empiricism and sensualism, where we have Thomas Hobbes George Berkeley and John Locke. And next to the neutral monism, which is the subcategory of monism, we also have another subcategory, which is the materialistic monism. And this subcategory is more associated with Thomas Hobbes. And this is the belief that only material things exist and that everything can be explained in terms of matter and physical phenomena. Like there is only materialistic substance, and this is the only substance that exists. On the other hand, we have George Berkeley, which is more associated with sensualistic idealism, and suggests that all knowledge comes to us through our senses, and there is no existence of material objects, like the opposite of Thomas Hobbes, right? Like there is only our perception and there is nothing outside of it. And to Berkeley to be perceived. And English empiricism, it emphasizes the role of sensory experience in the formation of ideas as opposed to rationalism, which considers reason as the primary source of knowledge. And John Locke emphasized the importance of the diachronic continuity of consciousness for personal identity, and he did several thought experiments that expanded the understanding of the relationship between consciousness and identity. And now some few words to association psychology, because it's also important when it comes to the association between consciousness and ideas, like the linking between conscious thoughts and the ideas. And here we have Hume and Mill. This psychological direction was pursued by Hume and Mill. It focuses on the interactions in the mutual influences of consciousness or conscious thoughts in the ideas. And this is necessary to understand the principles of the cooperation between conscious thoughts and the ideas. Like it's important for this linking or the associations between them. And Immanuel Kant, with the transcendentalism, he criticized the association psychology and said this is not simply linking ideas together through experiences. He said this is not sufficient for true understanding. He said the mind contributes fundamental structures for organizing experiences, just not simply by linking them together. Right. And he came up with the transcendental apperception, and he said this is like as the self-awareness that is necessary for combining or synthesizing different perceptions into one coherent experience. And now some few words also to French materialism, where we have Julien Offray de la Mettrie. La Mettrie viewed humans as complex. Like he said, okay, they have complex behaviors, they have complex mental processes, but he saw them ultimately as material machines. And in general, he held a deterministic worldview based on the assumption that all behaviors are determined by the movement of atoms. And but actually, this approach had a significant influence on the contemporary philosophy of mind and also on other sciences. And the mind-body problem also deals with the question of the relationship between mental processes and physical states, especially in regards to human consciousness. Like, as we've seen, there are a lot of philosophical positions that interpret this relationship in different ways. Like we've seen monism and dualism, but we also have, for example, eliminative physicalism. This is the position where the existence of experiential properties is denied. It assumes that there is no consciousness. It simply eliminates consciousness. And we also have behaviorism. We talked about behaviorism when we talked about cognitive science. This position understands mental states as behavioral dispositions. It avoids assumptions about internal mental processes, like feelings or thoughts, and it focuses more on observable behavior, or it focuses only on observable behavior. And we have also the nothing but claim. This type of statement, for example, consciousness is nothing but neural activity, or consciousness is nothing more than a neural activity. And this type of statement implies that more complex phenomena can be completely explained by simpler or more fundamental processes. Like complex phenomena like consciousness can be explained by a fundamental process like neural activity. And this is actually often used in the context of physicalism, where you reduce something complex to simpler terms, if I can put it that way. And we also have quietism. This is also a position in the context of mind-body problem. It denotes a philosophical attitude that rejects the possibility of solving metaphysical problems like consciousness. It instead focuses on the descriptions and acceptance of phenomena without trying to explain them theoretically. So it prefers to consider the question of consciousness as unsolvable or irrelevant. So we are now coming to an end. As we can see, there are different theories and positions that can be categorized differently, and like everyone tries to explain consciousness in a different category, which makes it difficult to have a definition that everyone else in other categories can agree on. And maybe the question here is really, will we ever find a clear definition if we have all these categories? I don't know, maybe not. So next time, like I said, I will continue talking about consciousness, where I will talk about the subjective nature of experience by Thomas Nagel, and I will also be dealing with the hard problem of consciousness and the intentionality and its relationship to consciousness. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good day. Bye-bye.